more.
Well, there's no
She's
agenda.
already signed. Maybe Rich or somebody, I don't know. Somebody
Okay,
else.
let's get ourselves started, I think. I'd like to welcome everybody. This is the City of Ellensburg City Council meeting for the evening of September 20th. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Council Member Milquist.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If the clerk would call the roll.
Elliott,
Here.
Goodlow. Here. Lamb. Here. Lilquist.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Morgan. Tab.
I'm here. Here she comes.
Oh, here she comes.
There she is.
Okay. Thank you. We do have one proclamation in our packet. This is a Public Natural Gas and Power Week proclamation. Would anyone care to read it?
I can, if no one else wants to.
Sure, if you would.
Whereas the city's natural gas and electric utilities provide our homes and businesses with clean, reliable, efficient, and low-cost services. And as customers and owners of our utilities, we have a direct say in utility policies, rates, and services. And whereas the city's natural gas and electric utilities are a valuable city asset that contribute toward making our community a better place in which to live and work through energy efficiency, customer service, environmental stewardship, and economic development. And whereas the city's natural gas and electric utilities are carried out in a transparent, dependable, trustworthy, and business-like manner. Now therefore, be it further resolved that the City Council of Ellensburg does hereby proclaim October 3rd through 9th, 2021 as Public Natural Gas and Power Week, and expresses its appreciation for the volunteers serving on the Utility Advisory Committee and all city employees that contribute to the continuing success of the natural gas and electric utilities. Signed this 20th day of September, 2021 by Mary Tab.
Motion to authorize the mayor's signature.
Second.
We have motion second to authorize signature on the Public Natural Gas and Power Week proclamation. Is there any further discussion? I just need to jump in for a moment. I want to make sure that we recognize that within that, it's the city employees that contribute to the success. You don't know the work that it takes to get power and gas to homes until it's not delivered. And when it's not delivered, you freak out. And typically, our crews and our people, men and women in that, when you flip a switch, electricity is there. When you turn your stove on, gas is delivered. And it's a tribute to their commitment to making that happen. So while we can have conversations about gas and electricity, this is really about our employees and the work that they do on a day in and day out basis to make sure that this community functions. And I want to thank them. That said, we have a motion and second for signature on the proclamation. All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you. I don't see that we have any awards recognition.
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Moves us to consent.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you. That moves us then to 6A. We're on a COVID-19 update. I see Cameron Walker on the line. Did you want to provide an update?
Yes, hi, good evening. So I'm Cameron Walker. I'm a health promotion project specialist with the Kittitas County Public Health Department. So I'll share a little bit about COVID in our community in general. So for the weeks of August 23rd through September 5th, the incident rate was 691.7. So that's really high. We have a lot of COVID in our community. In Kittitas County, the month of August, so last month, had the second highest number of cases since the pandemic started. And that number is second to December of 2020. And KVH continues to have limited bed space in their hospital. As of this morning, there were 10 hospitalized patients at KVH. 7 of those were COVID positive. 6 are in the ICU, and there are 6 beds in the ICU, so the ICU is full. And all of the 7 COVID patients are unvaccinated. Are there any questions about that before I move on?
Council?
No questions?
I think we're good.
Okay. So my role within the health department is vaccine focused. So from September 7th to September 13th, in Kittitas County, there were 771 vaccine doses administered. And that's across the county. So in pharmacies, at KVH, there were a few pop-up clinics. And then the total eligible population that has initiated vaccination, so the 12 and over age group, is over 50% vaccinated at 56.5% as of September 13th. Yeah, so that's an exciting milestone. And then the age group that has the lowest vaccination numbers is 12 to 17, and they are at 31.7% as of September 15th. And then Johnson & Johnson vaccine has been unavailable in Kittitas County for quite some time, but it is now available again. So Bimart, Super One, KVH Family Medicine in Ellensburg, and KVH Workplace Health all have Johnson & Johnson vaccine as of, I believe, this morning. And there will be some events for vaccine pop-up clinics that will have Johnson & Johnson. So tomorrow at Bite of the Berg, and then First Friday, so on October 1st at the Rotary Pavilion, and also the Farmers Market at the Rotary Pavilion on Saturday, October 2nd. And all 3 of those clinics are being hosted by Medical Teams International, which is an organization based out of Yakima. Are there any questions?
Council? No, I think we're good. Go ahead, Ness.
Yeah, if you're finished, I do have a question. I heard on the news this evening that the something about the children's vaccine for 5 to 12-year-olds might be available by Halloween.
Yeah,
Have y'all heard anything about that?
that is the extent of what I've heard as well. I don't know if Tristan has anything to elaborate on, but
Samesies, Cameron, yeah.
yeah.
I was wondering if you wanted to comment a little bit more about the recent, where we're at with the decisions for boosters.
Yeah, so last Friday, the FDA met regarding boosters, and it's my understanding on that is that it's looking like boosters will be approved for ages 65 and older, or people in certain settings, so potentially working in healthcare or something that is a higher risk, not necessarily for the general population at this time. And there still isn't a definitive date.
No,
when.
right? 'Cause they're still going to have to go through CDC and then the Western Pact and DOH before we get sign off here. But I imagine that cascade of events would be happening sooner than later. But I thought that was like a fairly seemed like a decent decision. Considering the data available and all the concerns, it seemed like at least we're not, it's a balance between hoarding all the vaccine available in the world and also making it available to people who might be in need. So, yeah, it was, I think, a reasonable, if not surprising decision. Oh, Rich wanted to comment more on that.
All I can add from an EMS perspective is we are seeing more patients on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, sicker with COVID than at any point during the pandemic. And we are transferring patients out to hospitals that will take them. Sometimes that decision happens at 2 o'clock in the morning and they're a vented patient going across the state. We're traveling longer distances to find hospitals that will take COVID patients. So the impacts are significant and very far reaching and in some cases very long lasting.
So what I'm hearing is that our 6 ICU beds, that would be more if we had more beds, and the patients at Kittitas Valley Hospital, that would be a higher number if we had more
It's
beds.
not so much a beds, although the ICU has some physical arrangements to it, but it's more of a staffing issue. They can't staff to take care of more patients at that high acuity level. And when they transfer a patient out, at this point, it's because the patients are failing and need a level of care that can't be here, like ECMO or something. They need some very advanced care.
So do we know how many total are that sick? More than 6, but
I
you
don't know
track how many are
individual
transferred
acuities. I
out.
can tell you, we saw multiple COVID patients today, some of which were turned away from the hospital because their level of care didn't quite warrant hospitalization yet, where in other times, 3 months ago, they absolutely would have been admitted to the hospital. Hospitals across the state are exercising crisis care. KVH isn't there or isn't there consistently, where they're basically turning away patients at the door and saying, call us back if, or come back if, and then give them an oxygen bottle and send them home.
Is that in our future? Are we going to get there? do you
We're
think?
already there. To
I
some
mean,
extent.
formally where people are being told, go home, we can't help
We're
you.
already there to some extent.
Okay.
It's happening.
Other questions? Just a quick one. Is there a conversation within the health department about a unified messaging, simple messaging, to continue public education about the need for masking and the things that we have been hearing? But it seems as if the information that goes out there now is either sporadic from individuals or wordy from the PIO, but there's no coherent community message, countywide or community messaging that at least I'm tied into. Is
Yeah, the health department itself, we don't have a specific communication strategy for that. We are contracting with partners. One is here today, actually, to help do some community messaging. People are not necessarily super keen to hear again from public health a new message or a different version of the same message. So we are trying new routes and trying to get partners to help with communication. The county PIO, the county has a new communications director, so that's another avenue that we're going through. But no, we have health promotion, we have work specifically for vaccines, but when it comes to like a communication or marketing strategy, that gets farmed out to the partners with expertise in that area.
I had a
And-
question. Oh, excuse me.
Well, we could, in the theory, ask our partners that we are contracting with to come and present to council some of the work that's been going on in the future. I got a nod.
well, I guess I'm not concerned about presenting to council. I'm concerned about presenting to the community. But my point is, right now, I'm not seeing consistent messaging across social media platforms, either through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, I can go through and check it. And and when we had community recovery and when we had other resources and different partners that were contracted, there was consistent messaging with common themes that we seem to be able to push out. That So I'm not, again, no, I don't need a presentation.
I was curious on the vaccine supply. Is it a supply chain issue where the vaccine quantities that are made available to all the providers is pretty much in line with the rate of vaccinations being issued? And where I'm going with that is, are we, because our vaccination rates remain low, I mean, aggregate is growing, but the rate is relatively slow. Are we wasting? I mean, as I recall, the vaccination has a finite shelf life and it has to be handled properly and so on. Are we throwing vaccines in the garbage because they're not being? I see a nod from down the end. So I guess my part of that message might be for the community, if people aren't serious about getting vaccinated, there may be fewer vaccines made available by decisions made by others. I think that would be a concern for me too. I mean, I don't know how we weave that into a public health message, but I mean, at some point, there's got to be some level of personal responsibility.
It's an interesting concept. Any other questions?
Can
Tabitha,
I add to that
Please.
on vaccine inventory? So there is waste in the county, but KVH is partnering with Bimart and Super One and different pharmacies to get them vaccines so that they don't have to order the like minimum quantity that you can order, which changes. So I can't give you an exact number, but that's a way that they're working to help prevent waste.
That's good news.
Good.
That's good news.
Again, thank you. There are no other questions. We'll move on to 6B. This is page 128 in our packet. Board and commission appointments. We had an opportunity to meet Lily Park, who's applying for the Senior Advisory Committee Commission last meeting. If there are any concerns, or we'd entertain a motion. This is a mayor thing again.
I so move. Second.
So a motion for the mayor to appoint or confirm the mayor's appointment of Lily Park to the Senior Citizens Advisory Commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. The only vacancy we then currently have is the Business Development Authority Centrifuge and 2 on the Building Appeals Boards, but all our other boards and commissions are full, which is remarkable and a remarkable testament to people's willingness in this community and our county, because we have county residents on those to serve. That's really quite remarkable. Thank you. That brings us into 6C. We're at page 132. This is Centrifuge's semi-annual report.
Oh, yeah. Have to lower it for we short people. Thank you for having us today. I'm Margaret Reich, and I'm the Executive Director for Centrifuge. As the mayor has mentioned, this is our second annual report to council. So I'll be sharing some information today about work that's happened since February that Centrifuge has been involved with. Maybe. Should I use arrows? Oh, okay. All right. As many of you know, Centrifuge is a product of the city. We were established in city ordinance. We have a 9-member volunteer board and a part-time executive director. And our mission is to strategically recruit, give businesses the resources so that they can start, grow, and prosper here in Ellensburg. And what our hope is that we will bring family wage jobs to Ellensburg. And I just want to, we've had a couple of questions. Well, what does that mean? So I wanted to share with you.
MIT has a wage calculator, and they calculate that if a household has 2 adults and 2 children, if one of the adults is working, then in Ellensburg, a family wage job is 61,859. If both parents, both adults are working, then the family wage is 80,787. So that just gives you a sense of what our target is. So I thought it'd be helpful, many of you know this, but some of you may not. This is kind of our organizational path. So again, we were created by an ordinance back in 1993. First went under the name of the Phoenix Group and Economic Development Group of Kittitas County. Assumed the management of the incubator in 94 and hired a full-time director in 95. And then secured a grant loan to build the building that EBDA now operates out of the airport. In the 2000s, those services were transferred over to the county to do the property management and the board support. And the Prospect building was owned free and clear. 2010, council decided, let's bring those economic development functions back into the city. So that happened in 17. Bylaws and charter were updated. EBDA now owns the airport building free and clear. And the city hired a part-time economic development manager who hosted an unwind event and rebrands as Centerfuse. Well, now we're in the 2020s and COVID struck. So the city and Centerfuse have a new interlocal agreement and Centerfuse hired a part-time director. We set some tactical objectives for 2021, facilitated the sale of the Prospect building, and released a broadband study. So again, this may be repetitive, but it may be new information for you. So how do we get our funding? So we're just starting a fee for service. So offering professional services of Centerfuse to others. City support is one of our revenue streams. And then our airport tenant rents and our 0.09 grant that we get from the county. So you've seen this when I presented back in February. These are kind of our 6 tactical objectives. And then in each of those is kind of a hit list for things that we hope to accomplish. Now, I'm going to go through all of these tonight, but I'm really going to focus in on the recruiting of businesses and the support growth of local businesses, but I'll touch on the other 4 as well. So the question we most often get asked, what is Centerfuse up to? Well, under the enhanced capital resources, we facilitated the sale of the Prospect building. We were involved with 4 of the 8 entities that put in a bid for the building. The building sold for $160,000 over asking. We're working on telling Ellensburg stories. So we've updated our website and we're doing more on social media. Our board, we, as the mayor mentioned, we have a vacancy on our board, but we have a new member, a new old member. Andreas Bowman joined us in the last 6 months. So he's back on board and we have 4 applicants right now for the 1 vacant seat. So that should be filled by next month. As far as public policy, we've been working when the legislature was in session, we were working on different initiatives that impacted economic development. And then we're currently working with community development on the comprehensive plan. So now I'm going to dive into the recruitment and the local business pillars that we have, the tactical objectives. So one of the main things in recruiting businesses, there's 2 key things that businesses need. They need workforce and they need infrastructure. So this is a really critical component as we go about recruiting businesses. So since February, the feasibility study has been completed and adopted, and then we've delivered a number of presentations about the broadband study. we like to see our role not only as doing certain things, but also stimulating or igniting other things to happen. So working with the county, broadband action team was created. Kittitas County, we wrote the curb grant for them, which was successful. The Kittitas Public Utility District also has a curb grant. Those are for planning for broadband. City of Ellensburg's working on a speed test and a partnership with Central Connect. Kittitas County and Charter put in an application to the National Telecommunications, oh gosh, the I and the A, Information Administration. And I think the city also was involved in the state of Washington's grant proposal. And then we at Centerfuse have been talking with a number of ISP providers and future projects under development. That NTIA grant was quite interesting. They had $2.5 billion available and over 230 applications. So less than 10% of those who applied will get it. We also work to curate and connect with businesses. So how does this happen? So leads come into Centerfuse from other people. We've had great success in working with the city staff and giving us referrals and involving us in pre-applications. Get referrals from people in the community. My board member, who's here, helped with that actually today. And we're hoping to have a more solid relationship with the Associate Development Organization here in Kittitas County, which is currently designated as the Chamber. We also are finding we're getting a lot of referrals from other developers. So a developer comes in, they like what they hear from Centerfuse, and then they're sending other people to us as well. So that's very exciting. And our new website has been good about providing people being able to fill out contact requests and sending them to me. And then networking. So in addition to kind of the model of sitting behind your desk and waiting for people to come to you, we're also out talking with different people about would they like to locate in Ellensburg. And one example has to do with my attendance at an International Economic Development Conference and meeting some folks from a couple of organizations, one in Seattle and one in Spokane, that are facilitating closer relationships between academia and economic development. So, and one of the things that's come out of that is the potential of attracting a life sciences manufacturing facility here. So it's not only that we sit behind the desk, but we try to get out in front of the desk and curate or look for those opportunities to attract businesses to Ellensburg. Yeah.
What's life science manufacturing?
It's most traditionally known as making pills.
Okay, sounded like it was making babies.
No, thank you for that clarification. So what is happening? We are getting calls, actually quite a few calls, which is really exciting. What's fascinating is the folks that are interested in coming to Ellensburg tend to be that are doing at least the site selection teams. They're usually representing clients that are looking for 40 to 100 acres of vacant land where they can custom build, and that those facilities tend to be on the light industrial end and employ from 200 to 1,200 people. So it's been really interesting to see these requests come through and to see kind of a similarity between them.
Margaret, can I ask numbers? So you didn't say, how many business contacts you've had in so many months or anything like that. I think that would be useful, but maybe not. I mean, you tell me, is that, because I'm sure they're at different levels.
Yeah, and that's kind of this next point here. So what I'm finding is I have about 10 regular developers. I talked to one of them today. I'm talking to one of them tomorrow. And they have a portfolio of customers. So while I may be talking to one developer, they may be representing a number of clients. So that's why the count in terms of that one contact, it's good to know, but it's also it leads to other things as well. As far as the site development process itself, once a property is identified, there's a feasibility study that lasts about 9 months. Then if everything works with that, which we've had a few of them fall through lately, then there's 3 months to firm up that real estate deal. Things start coming in through the city, and groundbreaking happens about a year after that. So the whole process takes well over 3 years. That would be a good time frame if it would happen in 3 years, but it's more likely 3 to 5 years between when the initial offering comes through to when the doors open on the business. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And again, the most of the inquiries, I'm getting some inquiries about leasing space that's existing. Most of them have been from people who want to build on vacant land. We want to be using more data to tell our story. We're finding that kind of hard, only because most of the data that we're able to locate is at the county level. But the Kittitas County has purchased some data sets, so we're going to hopefully be able to do a little deeper dive into Ellensburg. And I've just started having conversations with the chamber about a countywide marketing approach. We are needing some help with data processing and visualization, more information on wages, and then just some specific reports like on labor and cost of doing business to have available, and being able to compare us with other communities. So you may ask, who's our competition? So far, what I'm hearing in the past 6 months, the communities that we are competing with are Chelan, Yakima, Quincy, Othello, I'm missing one, Pasco. So those are the 5 that have, when I get inquiries, those are kind of the echoes that I hear amongst the developers. So part of one of our tactical objectives is the city roadmap, so that developers can better understand how to navigate the city system. I know that community development has that in their portfolio to take care of. We continue to have contact with our local electeds, with the chamber, with the EDA, and also Clay Ellen Development Association. We need to know a little bit more about what consumers here in Ellensburg have available that they want and what's missing. And so that's something we'll be asking in the future. And then we have been able to work with some local businesses who are going under expansion and place them in a location that helped with their growth. But we also need to do some more listening to what their specific needs are. And the part-time executive director has day-to-day things like financial reports and board meetings and monthly accounting and quarterly taxes and grant reporting and managing of the airport facility and the tenants there, and then just handling general inquiries about Ellensburg. So this was just, I thought this was an interesting map. This is from the US Census 2018, shows you where jobs are located in Ellensburg. It's no surprise that there'd be quite a concentration in the center of the city, but it'll be interesting to see how this map changes over time, especially if some of these light industrial prospects come to town. And the other question we're asked, are Ellensburg workers earning more? Well, yes, they are. So total jobs have increased 20% between 02 and 18. And a shift is happening between the workers earning less money to earning more. And again, this is US Census data. So kind of what's next? We just want to keep letting people know that Ellensburg is the place to start grow and thrive for a business. We'll continue to be looking for funds, not only for our organization, but with our partners. And we will use data to take action on opportunities that are available. And we'll look for opportunities to expand partnerships. And one of the things I want to ask of council tonight is that you will, there's a couple things. You will consider supporting tax increment financing as that gets more mature and we get more familiar and there's an opportunity available, that that'll be something that council will consider to have in the economic development incentive portfolio. And also if we can identify what are the city incentives for businesses to locate here and who's taking advantage of them and how do we go about promoting them, because we'd like to help with that as well. So with that, this is my board. Oh, John, you got moved over there. And I want to thank and recognize John Perry for being here tonight. Thank you so much. I know I've got board members that are watching online as well. So that is our 6-month report.
Right, okay. Thank you. Council questions?
You said,
Can you get closer to the mic? Yes.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. You referred to what are the benefits that the city can offer? Can you give us some ideas about that?
Yeah, one example is the multifamily tax exemption that I know that is in code. But to be honest, I don't know what else is in code that would be available for us to make sure that people have the information as they're considering Ellensburg. I mean, sometimes it's not going to make a difference. I can give you an example. We were a contender for, I think they were 250 living wage jobs. We were 3 of the top finalists. And the reason that we didn't move to the top 2 is that we were further located away from I-84 than the other 2. Well, we can't do anything about that. But if there might be something else that we could do to streamline permitting or whatever the case may be, I'm not sure. We'll have to take a look and see what's available now and think about creatively, what would we want to have in the future?
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, I just follow up on that point, Margaret. Thanks for the presentation. Do you see, to your last point about the incentives and Councilmember Goodlow's comment, how much overlap do you see between that effort and the TIP strategies update, if any? I mean, are we going to take advantage of that and try to get some answers to these same questions, or how do you see that?
I love that question. I hope so. Any study like that, the product that you get at the end is based on what you put into it. So if we can ask questions of TIP, identify for us, what are the incentives that we have available? What do our competitors have available? And how does that look? What is our competitive position as it relates to incentives? But we have to ask those kinds of questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? Great. Thank you. Again, I'd like to recognize and thank you for being here on your birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Which is always good. And then the other thing I think we should recognize is that as part of your history, unless I'm wrong, John, I think you were part of the city council that created the incubator and probably the Public Development Authority. I won't say how many years ago, but we sort of had it. So I think we should recognize John's commitment then to moving this community forward, but also your continued engagement and God, just the institutional knowledge and that you bring to any conversation, but also your willingness to prick the balloon and ask the hard question. It's absolutely appreciated. I've come to appreciate your input and your knowledge through the years. And so I think it's an opportunity really to recognize that while you're here. So thank you. I think he's turning red, but I can't tell.
That's why he wears a mask.
That's- Okay, then, again, thanks, Margaret. John, thanks for coming down, and thanks to all the board for your work on the economic development piece. With that, council will move to citizen comment on non-agenda issues. This is an opportunity for members of the public to approach council over issues which we have purview. We have some audience members. I also have some folks that are attendees. Does anyone wish to approach council over a non-agenda item? Seeing no one, we'll move then to 8A. This is now page 137 in your packet. I'll ask your forbearance. This is a closed record quasi judicial hearing. That will mean that there's a script that we'll walk through and a process that we must follow. So purpose of this closed record hearing is for the city council to consider the pertinent facts, applicable law, and to make a final decision on whether to adopt a resolution approving the application for preliminary plat approval of the Foster subdivision application number P21-039 submitted by Todd Whipple, agent for owner Weiniger Properties LLC. The closed record hearing is to consider the application. The closed record hearing to consider the application preliminary plot approval of the Foster subdivision is now open. I ask your cooperation in the following procedure. This is a closed record hearing. There has already been an open record hearing before the hearing examiner where evidence was submitted and testimony received. Under state law, there can only be one open public record hearing allowed in this proceeding. This closed record hearing means that the council bases its decision only on the record developed public hearing previously held before the hearing examiner. Only persons who have already participated in the open record hearing on this matter through written comments or oral testimony received by the hearing examiner can participate in this closed record hearing. Those persons are Todd Whipple, agent for the owner, Clayton Graham, attorney for the owner, Aaron Anderson, citizen, James Ellinger, citizen, Kathy Williams, citizen, and Roxy DeSuer, citizen. No new testimony or introduction of new materials or evidence is allowed. Comments or arguments must address only the record already established during the previous open record hearing before the hearing examiner and be directed to the issue of whether the hearing examiner's decision should or should not be adopted. If anyone presents comments that are not based on facts in the record, anyone may make an objection. If an objection is made, the person speaking will stop until the issue of the objection is resolved. The city clerk will be making a recording of the proceedings. I'll first request to testify from anyone attending this hearing in person, followed by persons attending remotely via Zoom. If you wish to participate virtually via Zoom, you must raise your virtual hand on the Zoom meeting screen or press *9 if you're connected by telephone only. Wait until you've been recognized and you have been unmuted. When you are invited to speak, begin by stating your name and address, indicate whether you're speaking for yourself individually or as a spokesperson for a certain group or both. Speak slowly and clearly. Only one person will be allowed to speak at any time. Any questions of staff are to be directed through council. City council seeks to conduct this hearing in a manner that is fair and unbiased in both appearance and fact. Therefore, I'd ask council members the following questions. Does any member of the council have an interest in this property or issue?
No.
Nor do I. Will any member of council obtain any financial benefit or suffer a financial loss as a result of the outcome of this hearing?
No.
Nor will I. Does any council member believe he or she cannot hear and consider this matter in a fair and objective manner?
No.
Nor I. Has any council member engaged in communication with opponents or proponents regarding this issue outside of the public hearing process?
No.
Nor have I. Is any council member employed by a party which has a direct or indirect interest in any property, the value of which will be affected by a decision in this matter?
No.
Nor I. Will any council member be employed by a party for which the potential employment may be a result of the decision in this matter?
No.
Nor I. Is any council member a member of or involved in such associations or organizations, whether formal or informal, which take a position on this application? Nor I. Is any member of a council member's family or any person with whom they have a social relationship, an advocate or witness who has provided oral or written testimony or argument in this matter, or will provide oral or written testimony, argument in this matter?
No.
Nor I. Is there anyone present at this time who objects to my participation or any council member's participation in these proceedings on appearance of fairness grounds? Seeing no one, we'll move on. Before we do hear from the audience, is there a staff report to be presented?
Yes, and I believe Jamie is going to be presenting that. Jamie, are you with us?
That's the first time. Here we go. Right there. I think.
Jamie, you're muted. I think he has tech support.
No. So what do we do with this one?
I think he has tech support in, and I believe Kirsten can be a backup.
Yeah, I'm assuming IT is helping him out. Like his mute keeps turning off and on, but I can start the presentation. If Jamie's able to jump in at any point, I will let him. So Jamie, if you can, just turn on your camera when you can, and I'll let you take over. I'm familiar with the project, but anyway, Kirsten Sackett, Community Development Director. As Bruce already stated, this is a public hearing on a plat of the Foster Subdivision. And the hearing examiner already reviewed this in a meeting on, let's find the date. I guess it doesn't matter, but he issued a decision on September 9th of 2021. And in your packet, you do have his decision with all of the exhibits that were turned in with the initial application. When we held the meeting, it was September 9th. I guess he gave it on, I apologize. I'm not as familiar with this as Jamie was, but the applicant appeared at the hearing before the hearing examiner and testified in favor of the project and agreed with the staff proposed conditions of approval. And I do want to share my screen with the location of this proposed plat. It's right. Are we seeing this map?
That's good.
Okay.
And thank you for jumping in. We appreciate that you didn't expect this part of it.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. I thought I might need to. So this proposed plat is on this parcel here. It's on the north side of West Dry Creek. And for your bearings, this is the old Mount Stewart School. So obviously this area is before the new schools were built. The subject property is 42.13 acres in size. It's zoned residential suburban. And this zoning allows for detached single-family dwellings as the predominant land use, and it has a base maximum density of 6 dwelling units per acre. And I'm going to switch screens. Is it now showing the proposed plat?
Yes.
Okay, so you need to invert this. This is Dry Creek Road here. This is actually to the north, and the school is over here. So the proposal is to create 141 separate residential lots, which is within the allowable maximum density. The lots will range in size from 4,886 to 13,368 square feet. And in addition to those 141 lots, there are 5 undeveloped lots totaling 13.70 acres. And that's to account for these wetlands. That's why I pulled up this particular one. So each of these areas here accounts for a wetland with the associated buffer. The plat will have a little bit of frontage. It's not much, but right here, fronting Dry Creek Road. And it's got several internal access roads, as you can see, that will be constructed by the applicant to meet the Land Development Code and Public Works standards. And sorry, I'm just going to get my, in case Jamie does join us, just jump in. So this particular plat is located within a half-mile radius of the nearest elementary school, which includes both Mount Stewart Elementary and Ida Nason or Ronica Elementary, which means that the school district expects the children in the area to walk to school. And as an alternative safe walking route to school, the developer is planning to install a connection to the Palusta Cascades Trail. It's on this map as the John Wayne Trail, but there would be a pathway that they could take down here, and then they would be able to easily get to either of the schools that you're not seeing on this plat. This is required in order to provide a safe pedestrian route and for concurrence with the city's non-motorized transportation plan. And there will be shoulder widening and frontage improvements required on the north side of Dry Creek Road along the frontage property. And the city's only able to have them put improvements on property that they own. A recommendation had previously been made to extend the improvements from the project site to the existing sidewalks. And I'm going to go back to the map. So the proposal was for the sidewalks to loop all the way around to where they are in front of the school. However, it was determined through discussions with the Public Works Department that the existing 60-foot right-of-way is not adequate to fit those improvements, as discussed above. But they'll have the trail, as I said previously, there'll be a pathway here for connection to the Palusta Cascades Trail, which is actually going to be shorter for most of the lots to get there. Oops. This extension will begin to provide neighborhood connectivity and achieve goals and policies within the land use, housing, and transportation plans. And the Parks and Rec open space requirements will be met through the payment of park impact fees. There's a little bit of discussion on what you've got around you, but just looking at the zoning map, you can see you've got a lot of some vacant RS land, some homes along here, and then the schools as well. In terms of the review process, the criteria for reviewing a preliminary plat are outlined in Chapter 15.260 of the code. The hearing examiner meeting was held on August 10th, and he issued his decision later, and he actually made a correction on September 9th, and that accounted for the change in the pathway to the school. The recommendation had 9 conditions of approval as depicted in Exhibit 1, which is his recommendations. And pursuant to the code requirements, the City Council shall, at the conclusion of this hearing, make its own decision supported by written findings of fact and conclusions of law, and approve with conditions, or disapprove the preliminary subdivision application.
Thanks, Drew.
Are you on, Jamie? Okay. Jamie?
Yeah, I'm here.
I can finish this part up. It's almost over. And then I think if they have questions at the appropriate time, you might be better to answer them.
Okay, that's good.
Real quick, I'm almost done here. So council is being requested to approve the preliminary plat by adopting the proposed resolution. Alternatively, prior to making a decision, council can either 1, refer the preliminary subdivision application back to the hearing examiner for further consideration, 2, require the applicant to modify the preliminary subdivision application, or 3, require more information to be submitted by the applicant. The decision criteria are outlined on pages 140 to 141. There are 6 of them. I'm not going to read them, but I just note that staff does agree with the hearing examiner's conclusion that the proposed preliminary plat application does meet the criteria. The applicant is on the line as well if you have questions for them, and I will just stand for questions at the appropriate time, or let Jamie take those on.
Great, thank you. If the applicant's representative is present, does he or she have comments or an argument he would like to make at this time? I'm seeing that name. No, just
You know that the Ben Goodmanson is who is with the applicant of Whipple Consulting.
okay, but that individual. Okay, I need help. That individual is not called out in my list.
There would have to be somebody on the list.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate your wishing to testify. Because this is a closed record hearing and you did not provide testimony, Mr. Goodmanson, you will not be able to provide testimony this evening. Is there anyone else representing the applicant who would like to present information? Anyone who presented information at the previous open hearing? Seeing no one, Then again, well, again, this would open it. Do any of the other persons listed above who participated through written comments or testimony have comments or arguments that they would like to make at this time? Again, seeing no one. Staff have anything to add?
I will just throw in real quickly, if the applicant is not able to speak, who's here tonight. They did give a presentation and their PowerPoint is exhibit 1.14 and it gives a lot of great information. So hopefully folks have looked at their packet, but Jamie, do you have anything to add?
I do not have anything further.
Great, thank you. Council, do you have any questions of the applicant's representatives, members of the public or staff?
I have a question of staff. Can you explain the road that goes down on the south side of the property through an adjoining property? Is that also an access road or is that? It shows it on the plat.
Yes, that is a secondary access due to the number of lots created and for a required second access.
Okay.
Other questions? Then before closing the public hearing, I wish to advise everyone present that the council reserves right to reopen this hearing for additional questions or take additional comments later tonight or to continue the hearing if needed. Public comment of this portion of this hearing is now closed. Council may now begin discussion deliberations of the matter. Council.
Questions?
So then we need to have a motion to adopt.
I move that we adopt the attached resolution approving the preliminary plat application.
Second.
That would be resolution 2021-28, is it right? Okay, so we have a motion and second to adopt resolution 2021-28 approving the preliminary plat application of Foster Subdivision. Actually, it's the whole thing, right? We don't do a second one to incorporate the hearing. It looks like it's all rolled up in the resolution, right? So I'm going to read that whole thing so we do have a motion and second to adopt attached resolution 2021-28 approving preliminary plat application of Foster Subdivision submitted by Elliott Whipple, agent for property owner Weiniger Properties LLC, incorporating the hearing examiner's September 9th, 2021 corrected recommended findings of facts, conclusion of law, decision and conditions of approval. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Well, hang on, I want to say I guess I'm disappointed that there won't be a walking path, at least if not a sidewalk, along Dry Creek Road from this subdivision to the school. I understand that there's not right of way and the city was unable to obtain the right of way. But I think that that would have been the better path. John Wayne Trail works great, but I know people are going to want to walk along that road too, and they won't be able to. And
Especially at night.
yeah, and so that's a I guess a missing link that I don't know how long it will be there. It will depend on the next, those two intervening lots to develop, and it doesn't change the outcome. It couldn't be helped, but I do appreciate the developer trying to, and apparently they offered to provide, build that out to the school. That would have been part of it if we could have gotten the right of way. So.
Thank you. Other discussion? We have a motion. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. So let's move on. We're now at 998. We'll be Page 232 in your packet, second reading of ordinance 4878, amending frequently flooded areas.
All right, Kirsten Sackett, Community Development. As just introduced, ordinance 4878 would update the regulations for the frequently flooded areas, and it's found in Title 15 of the Ellensburg City Code. We're moving forward with this because FEMA issued a letter of final base flood elevation determination on March 24th, 2021. And that letter stated that FEMA would be updating our flood insurance rate maps and flood insurance study, and they would become effective on September 24th, 2021. So that was a 6-month period. And during that same period, we were required to adopt a compliant floodplain management ordinance in order to remain participants in good standing with the National Flood Insurance Program. And remaining in good standing is important as it enables Ellensburg's community members to receive reduced insurance rates on their flood insurance policies. The amendments to the Land Development Code were reviewed during the public hearing. They include revisions and additions to definitions, new guidance and clarity on procedural requirements and performance standards for development in the floodplain. So council did hold a study session on August 16th to go over this, and then you held a public hearing on September 7th, 2021, at the conclusion of which council approved the proposed amendments, and it was immediately followed by approval of first reading of ordinance 4878. The procedures for processing a land development code are a type 5 procedure. So that required the planning commission to also hold a public hearing, which was held on September 1st, 2021. They forwarded a recommendation of approval. Both the Planning Commission and City Council found the proposed ordinance to be in keeping with the decision criteria of the Land Development Code, finding the revised regulations to be in accordance with the comp plan. They will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or general welfare, and they are in the best interests of the citizens, as they are actually intended to further protect the residents from the potential damage caused by flood waters. This is also in compliance with Washington state requirements. So these were forwarded to the Department of Commerce on July 29th. They granted review on August 12th, and the SEPA DNS was issued by the city on September 3rd, 2021. And at the conclusion of this, we're requesting that council will conduct second reading and declare that an emergency does exist, necessitating that this ordinance takes effect on September 24th, 2021, which is just a little bit sooner than the typical 5-day period.
Thank you. Council.
I move we conduct second reading and adoption of ordinance 4878 and declare that an emergency exists, necessitating that this ordinance take effect on September 24th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Just, do we need that as two motions, or is this it's a single motion? Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and second to conduct second reading and adoption of ordinance 4878 and also declaring an emergency, necessitating that the ordinance take effect on September 24th, 2021. Is there further discussion? The clerk would call the roll.
Elliott,
Yes.
Goodlow,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Lowquist,
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Morgan,
Yes.
Tab.
Yes. Motion carries.
An ordinance relating to the City of Ellensburg Land Development Code, Title 15, amending Chapter 15.130 definitions, amending Chapter 15.210 permit review process types, amending Chapter 15.250.050 variances type 3 review process, amending Chapter 15.600 general provisions, amending Chapter 15.610 exemptions and exceptions, and amending Chapter 15.630 frequently flooded areas of the Ellensburg City Code.
Great, thank you. That brings us then to 9B. This is page 280 in your packet. It's the resolution to approve the final plat application for the French subdivision.
Okay, once again, you get Kirsten Sackett, Community Development Director. We were hoping Jamie could present the other one just so you didn't have to listen to me as much, but I'll make this one quick as well.
Can you do different voices?
You wouldn't want that. I could do that, but I won't. The city's received a final plat application for the French subdivision. It's for property located at 1201 Sanders Road, and I will quickly share my screen. the property is right here. It's a 5-acre property. This is Alder Street and Sanders, so it's just to the east of Sanders on the north side. As proposed, the lot will create 12 single-family lots ranging in size from 9,655 square feet to 13,112 square feet. And that larger lot is due to the existing house on the property, so it's going to have a larger lot. And actually, I apologize. The memo is incorrect. This lot 4 is much larger than that. It's 64,000. I don't know how it got in there. But you've got 3 lots here on the south side of the property fronting Sanders, and then you've got the rest in the cul-de-sac right here. A closed record public hearing was held on this preliminary plat for the French subdivision on April 20th, 2020. So that was for the preliminary plat, and council conditionally approved the plat through council resolution number 2020-10 on that same date. And council approved that subdivision with 9 conditions. They're found on pages 280 to 281 of your packets, and I'm not going to read those. But just moving on to the analysis, with that preliminary plat approval granted by council, the expiration date for finalizing the plat is April 20th of 2025. The applicant submitted a final plat application on June 7th, and it wasn't deemed to be ready to move forward. The applicant needed to either construct all the improvements or get bonding, and that wasn't quite all taken care of. So the application was placed on hold for a brief time until all of those requirements could be met, and that has been deemed complete by the Public Works Department. Moving on to page 282, there are some decision criteria found in sections 15-260-060 through 260-100. This is on pages 282 to 283 of your packet that just describe the decision criteria, and the effect of final subdivision approval is within that as well. And basically moving forward to the last page on 284, on April 20th, 2020, during that preliminary plat review process, the proposed subdivision was determined to be in conformance with the land development code requirements pertaining to the residential suburban zoning. During review of the final subdivision application, comments were received from 3 departments, which were included in the report as exhibits 4, 5, and 6. Staff has since found the final subdivision application to be in conformance with the conditions of the preliminary plat approval, as well as with all adopted city codes and other requirements. And as required, the civil plans for the plat have been approved by the Public Works Department. Some of the public improvements have been installed, and the remaining ones are covered by a bond posted by the applicant. So the final plat of the French subdivision is ready for city council action, and staff has provided a resolution with the agenda incorporating the findings, conclusions, and conditions of the original plat approval. And that ends my report, unless you have any questions.
Thank you. Council questions?
I'm not sure if this question is appropriate at this point, but I'm aware of 2 flooding incidents on the southwest corner, so right above the East Sandard Road designator on the picture map that we saw. Has that been handled? It was a culvert issue, but it was fairly significant flooding.
I couldn't speak to that. Harry, do you want Public Works to speak to that?
Wasn't that further west than this plat? Wasn't it where where the creek comes down?
Nope.
No, okay, sorry.
I'm not sure that affects anything, in terms of outcome, just FYI, if it hasn't been dealt with.
Rich, this is Derek Mayo, city engineer. I could touch base on that lightly. It is just west of the proposed project, or the actual plat itself. There's been some minor repairs done to that culvert. I don't know the effectiveness of them, other than we didn't have issues this past year, so it seemed to be working. It's mainly dealing with the irrigation culverts.
Other questions? Thank you, Derek. Okay, council, then we need a motion to approve the French subdivision as final and authorize the mayor's signature on the final plat of the French subdivision.
So moved.
There a motion second to approve the French subdivision as final and authorize the mayor to sign the final plat of the French subdivision. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Then we would have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-29 in support of council's approval of the final plat of the French subdivision and authorize mayor's signature on the Mylars for the final plat.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion second to approve Resolution 2021-29 in support of council's approval for the final plat of the French subdivision and authorizing mayor's signature on the Mylars for the final plat. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you. That would bring us to manager's report and council reports. We do have need for executive session this evening of about 15 minutes. 10? And can we do it in 8? Not just. Sorry.
Excellent. Well, this is Heidi Berenstern away, your city manager. Just a short list of items here. A reminder that annually Waste Management does a fall cleanup that's scheduled for October 2nd through 9th. And folks should be receiving coupons in the mail. They're also available at City Hall here. Second is a request to set a public hearing for the October 4th City Council meeting on 2022 revenue sources.
I so move.
Second.
Motion second to set a public hearing for the October 4th meeting for whatever it is,
Revenue sources.
for revenue sources. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next on the list is construction is going to begin on University Way and Reeser Creek Road signalization. The project should take under a couple of months to do the initial work. And again, that actually started, I believe, this past week. And then you actually won't see the signals going up. Again, supply issue. And so early next year, you'll see the signals actually going up and functional. So long-term project. Then let's see here, the city financial audit. It's always an opportunity, wonderful opportunity to boast about some of the good work of our staff. This last week, we did an exit conference for the auditing of the 2020 financial statements. And then also we do a single audit anytime we pass a threshold for federal grants. And so the single audit was on our highway planning and construction cluster and the coronavirus relief fund. And we had a nice clean audit and it was just wonderful work by our staff. It's a lot of work to prepare for an audit and function through an audit. And I just want to say, kudos to our finance staff for walking us through that. And then just a reminder that it takes a team to do this because it depends on everyone doing their job, documenting as they go. So good job, Team Ellensburg. Second to last here, I have a request. The Conference of Governments was asked to sign a memo of understanding for all of the members to participate in the TIP strategy study. It was really a commitment saying we want to be part of this and committing to the work it takes to move forward with the strategy on implementation. So it was a request that the mayor sign this. And so we thought we would bring that to council tonight for approval. And that was emailed to you, I believe, on Friday.
Motion to have the mayor sign the memorandum of agreement.
Second.
So a motion second for the mayor's signature. And actually there's room for David.
David too?
I think it's our representative.
Oh, right. Yeah.
COG representatives for signature on the memorandum of agreement for the creation of a Kittitas County Economic Development Strategic Plan. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries.
Super, thank you. My apologies, Councilmember Mello. And lastly is just my final check-in. Friday is our city council retreat at the Wellington Event Center. It does open at 8 a.m. We will have coffee and we will serve you food and try to keep you engaged during the entire day. If you can't make it immediately at 8 o'clock, don't worry. We'll save a seat for you. And again, you should have received your parking pass for the day. And again, we'll keep you hopefully engaged, and we have a busy schedule ahead. If you haven't met with this facilitator, I think we have two folks. Let's please work with Lori and myself, and we'll make sure and get you connected before the end of the week. So any questions about retreat?
Council. Let's
Super.
do council reports before we go into exec then. Mary, do you want to start?
Nothing to report.
Thank you.
COG meeting last week, and that was, among other things, the HIP strategies memorandum. And for what it's worth, it went up for vote for the COG members, and it was approved. So essentially, everyone will be going through the same exercise we did as far as getting the individual signatures. So that's good. Also, the council funded programs subcommittee met. We had a meeting last week and went through the proposals. It's interesting, I don't have them in front of me, but just as an FYI, we increased our funding level this year from last year by roughly 2%. And the increase in ask was over 70%. So needless to say, we were able to work with what we had. So anyway, it's getting prepared to bring back to council. But and then 2 weeks ago, I virtually attended the Washington Community Forestry Council quarterly meeting, and work is ongoing. There's quite a lot of activity within DNR, sort of it's not reorganization for organization's sake, but they're mobilizing staff and resources to take advantage of the new legislation that will effectively double the urban community forestry council or the program budget. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Nancy.
The Utility Advisory Commission met. The two comp plans that were referred to the UAC from the council were again discussed, and we are defining a proposal to bring to you for a study of energy policy. So expect that, and at the same time, we've asked to reconsider the gas rebates that the city offers. There was also a broadband report regarding the NOAA agreement. And the Environmental Commission met and considered two grant proposals for water quality, their water quality grant, and split the difference between the glass recycling project and the Mid-Columbia Fisheries project that they've done in the past on riparian areas. And since I usually report on bicycle advisory stuff, I looked at there's automatic counters at 5 locations in the city, and one of them being on the Blues to Cascades Trail at Helena, and there were over 1,200 people per day walking on that in average in August, and which is double what it was in July and August and in June and July. So anyway, I graphed it because I'm geeky. So just anyway, I thought that was very impressive. That's a well-used, well-loved trail. I'm glad that we can provide it for the citizens. The Developmental Disabilities Advisory Commission adopted a biennial plan, and the Airport Advisory Commission is working on the airside leases and revising that lease language, as well as the ag leases and rates and fees, and there is a new strategic plan for the airport advisory, or for the airport properties. And the burn ban is lifted, I hear. And tomorrow at 2 PM, the county commissioners will consider a real estate excise tax proposal.
Great, thank you. Tristan.
Yeah, we had the library board meeting. There was a 2 months update instead of just the one they took August off. Josephine was excited to report they had a visit from the new Washington State librarian, Sarah Jones. So that was exciting for them and well deserved. The state librarian was doing a tour, but they don't hit up all the libraries. So for Arts Commission, a recently deceased artist was selected to be honored as the arts treasure, a recently passed local artist. So stay tuned for that if that messaging hasn't already gone out yet. And then there was also some concern about the cost of the bus shelter glass and art. It exceeded, I guess, pretty dramatically the budget that they had in place and the original estimate. So they're reaching out if they haven't already, and I guess we'll figure out what happened there. End of report.
So I worked with Councilmember Miller and Mayor Tab on the committee to recommend the community grants. That worked out really well. Wanted you to know that the DEI Commission has forwarded the draft comp plan so that it can begin the process of SEPA and all the other stuff that it has to go through. So hopefully we can stay on track in the schedule and have that to council before the year. Yeah, and I went to the UAC meeting.
Thank you. Rich.
Parks, their grant money went to the rugby project and some signage out in the floodplain in West Ellensburg. Centrifuge gave their report. I attended the Fitters 125th anniversary, which is really cool. I got to, see employees that have been there for 30 years, which again is really cool to see, non-family employees staying with the business that long and such. Behavioral Health and Advisory Board is a board I'm normally on. They meet today at this time. So I've notified the county that I'm not going to be on it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because I have probably stepped on a whole bunch of toes over this 1/10 of 1%. So I'm not sure if the city wants to, push participation in that advisory board to the county. But again, having the off, it's probably not a bad thing. Yes, the burn ban was lifted, but everything is still really freaking dry. So please be careful. And it is possible by this Saturday, we will begin to do prescribed burns in and around Roslyn. So you may see smoke, but the smoke will be good smoke in the next month or so. Hopefully it stays good.
Good smoke, but never mind. Okay, then I've just a couple things. We may want to coordinate a bit on the grants. I'm surprised that there was a glass recycling within Environmental Commission because the community, there was also an ask within the community grants. We've not had that occur, so we may want to have a conversation about that.
Let's see if they're the same proposals.
Well, yeah, or
Yeah.
something.
And this was very tailored to water quality, so.
But again, we've not entertained, I think it's a conversation before we move forward to our review and approval. The other piece would be is if the entities did not exhaust all of the grant money that was available, we could certainly look at, as a council, rolling it to those areas of the grants that are not funded. And so I think there's a couple things there that we probably want to take a look at. I just want to, wasn't able to make the Fitters, but I just want to reinforce just what a hallmark and milestone for that business. And particularly to be within the same family. And not only that, but if you've worked with Brad on anything, the commitment to this community, to doing things the right way, has never wavered. And it's really really in a sense an honor to have that business located in our downtown and have that family engaged in our community. It's truly appreciated.
I was going to say, Mr. Mayor, that reminds me last spring, I guess it was, when the affordable housing project was dedicated. It wasn't publicized, but what I heard through Hope Source was that Fitterers donated a significant number of mattresses to the units. So there's talk about community support. I think there's another example of that. So.
And they had the tallest green cakes I've ever seen.
At a subsequent meeting, there's some folks that are working to move forward on a designation for creative district that ultimately will come back to us, but those conversations are still going. I think it was perhaps discussed somewhat for funding. Well, we incorporated that in our spending plan, some portion. So there's a ask now to get the second portion to have the planning piece done. I had an opportunity to meet with the mayor of Yakima, the city manager of Yakima, and transportation coordinator for Yakima Valley Council of Governments on possible restoration of passenger rail service. Yakima Council will be doing a study session in November. So that will probably come back to us just in terms of their direction and support. It's fairly massive. It's a heavy lift, but it could be interesting. I also had the opportunity just prior to this meeting to attend an open house for the LGBTQ returning students and new students on the President's lawn. As well attended, incredible energy, great opportunity just to introduce the city and reinforce to those students how important they are to our community and the voices that they bring. So it was just actually it was a good time. With that, we'll go into an executive session to consider collective bargaining sessions with employee organizations and also to discuss matters related to agency enforcement or to discuss possible agency litigation or potential litigation. We will be in exec for 10 minutes. No action is anticipated at the end. And thank you. Sorry, Rich.
Oh, okay. If you want to set it there, I'll pick it up. Okay, thanks.
Here, I've got it.
Nancy.
Why don't you give, I've got this folder for it.
No problem. Thank you very much. Oh, it is more.
Well, that's, yeah, that's. No, well, I don't, I mean, I don't.
Nobody told them they couldn't, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. No, but I'm just saying.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned, thank you.